Many years ago, I was having a challenge with someone I lived with, and one of my coworkers who had a few more years experience than I did said, so I was like, she's like, I always think that letting compassion guide is a good place to start. Because, there's sometimes that where we want to like make someone like, not make them, but, let them experience the full consequences of their choices, right? And that's not to say that it's not our job. I mean, it's not our job to fix everything for everyone all the time, but sometimes, letting compassion be our guide is a good place to start. I thought it was very wise counsel. And I try to come back to that sometimes when I'm feeling a little triggered. And it's a great reminder to let everything that we do be led by what is important to us. Some people call them values, the core beliefs, compassion, love, generosity, justice, quality, whatever those things are. Let everything we do be put through that filter. I was in a group chat earlier this week and with a bunch of clergy people, and we were talking about one of those groups who claims that they know who God hates. I'll get into that in a minute. And they were wondering why. They were like, do you remember why in particular that group decided to target us? Because usually they have a reason. And my reply, though maybe a little jokey, but also very true, is that they will protest anywhere where people are showing up as Jesus taught, which is, love everyone. Because if you think that you know who God hates, then loving people would seem to be opposite of that, right? God is love. It seems like we shouldn't have to remind people of that, I'm just saying. But I had the joy of being at the Pride Festival yesterday and being in the parade. And it was really wonderful because it's a time of embracing people as they are, who they are, and not just embracing them in spite of, but just embracing them and celebrating them. And there were a number of different faith traditions represented in booths and in the parade. I think that if you'd put all the people marching from different faith traditions all in the same place instead of spread out throughout the parade, we would have been longer than a block. Maybe a block and a half. That's pretty great. I don't know if it would have been like that 20 years ago, at least not everywhere. So that's pretty great because we remember more that God is love. In John, 1 John, it says that a number of times. Let us love one another, for love comes from God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. So, can we have compassion for those who think they know who God hates? still can't quite wrap my brain around that. But dear friends, since God so loves us, we also ought to love one another. I mean, it's pretty clear. I'm just saying, it's pretty clear. Who would Jesus hate? Nobody. Now, Jesus called people to account, right? Some people were behaving in ways that caused harm to other people, and he told them to knock it off. That's good. We should do that. But the reason why is because love and compassion, an understanding of our oneness with one another, is the core of all of that. That's why. Thinking of not only, I mean, our spiritual teachers are pretty consistent on this. So, the Buddha, the story of the Buddha, right? So the Buddha was a rich guy. He was a prince. He was sheltered from the world. And then he saw suffering in the world. And what he did was seek to understand. I think that's a very powerful thing to do. Be like, I see something that's out that I don't understand, or someone's hurting, and I seek to understand. And then to act. Buddha has taught us to be compassionate. Buddha said that life is complicated. These are my version of what he said. Life is complicated. Sometimes it hurts. We have compassion for each other. We have compassion for ourselves. Now, Buddha didn't say this part, but I'd add that God is love. And so, yes, the theme for the month is focus. And so, to me, this brings us back to what is our focus? Because while we may say, well, I have these tasks, or I have this goal in my life, or what those things are, we still, I would hope, want to see all of those things through the lenses of what are the most important things to us. Let us always act with compassion. Let us always act with love. Let us choose generosity. Let us choose love. Let us not be overtaken by the bigness of all the things that hurt in the world. There was a time, not that long ago, when you got the newspaper once a day and you read it, and then you got on with your life. And maybe you heard something on the radio or in the reel before you saw a movie. Now we're hearing things all the time, and we're have a much bigger global picture than 100 years ago. And that's not bad or good. I think there's good things and less helpful things in that. Our brains can't possibly hold on to all the suffering in the world. Our hearts can't hold on to all the suffering in the world. But we can put our focus on doing our part with compassion, our part with love, our part with joy, our part with generosity, our part. That we can do, right? We can do that part. Yeah. So we can see all the big things. We can hold hope and a vision for a world that works for all. We should definitely do that. And know that each choice that we make, as my friend told me many years ago, each choice we make to respond from compassion makes a difference, creates a ripple. Because then when I choose to respond out of compassion, now there's an opening where there might have been a wall. And each time we do that, we are creating more harmony and peace and connection. And the possibility for joy and the place to see the opportunities to create more justice, right? Like the Buddha, we see the pain, but we don't stay with just seeing the suffering. We seek to understand. And from understanding, we can be more helpful change agents. So whatever it is that is ours to do, whoever it is ours to be, we seek to understand. We seek to move and act from compassion for ourselves, for the person we perceive as the other, even though we know there is no other. We know that God is love. There is no one on God's hate list. There is no one. No one. And so if we are all on the list of beloveds, then everyone we're encountering is as well. And so as we continue to move to our visions for the world, for our visions for ourselves, for our visions of our community and the places that we live and connect and grow, may we always, always focus on our compassion and our love and our peace and our values as the core of how we choose and act and speak for everything.